Now at 8 p.m.
It makes me feel like I'm doing everything I can to protect myself.
A Colorado hospital expanding vaccine clinics for people needing their third dose.
And it's a lot easier for any kind of virus or bacteria or something to invade my system.
We break down who's eligible for the extra shot as well as how to register. Plus, ICU beds in Colorado hospitals are on the brink of reaching capacity. Now they're working together to keep from being overrun. And U.S. troops brace for the threat of more terrorist attacks in Afghanistan.
We still believe there are credible threats. In fact, I'd say specific credible threats. And we want to make sure we're prepared for those.
I don't want blame. I want solutions.
Meantime, military families are sitting down with Denver7 to express their frustrations.
Choices that our soldiers and sailors have made over the years.
First, we begin with breaking news out of Afghanistan. The U.S. military has bombed an Islamic State member in retaliation for Thursday's attacks. A Navy spokesperson says one person was killed and there are no reports of civilians being harmed. 13 U.S. service members and nearly 170 Afghans were killed by ISIS yesterday. It's unclear if the person killed today was directly responsible for that bombing. We'll have more details about the evacuation efforts in just a few minutes. More than 600,000 Americans have received an additional dose of the COVID-19 vaccine as of Thursday, according to the CDC. Good evening and thanks for joining us for Denver7 News at 8. I'm BAYAN Wang, filling in for Jessica tonight. A total of 643,000 people have received the third dose since the FDA authorized it for certain higher risk people on August 13th. That's out of 9 million Americans who have weakened immune systems, like organ transplant recipients. For people who are not immunocompromised, the third COVID-19 shot is recommended 8 months after the second dose. Tonight, the first report on booster shots in Colorado has been released. As of today, more than 22,000 people have received their extra shot. That's less than 1% of people who have received at least one dose in the state so far. All right, UC Health is expanding their clinics to administer that third dose. Denver7's Addie Guajardo spoke with a transplant recipient who received her extra shot today.
Donna Bolt is used to hospitals. She's a former nurse and patient.
Came here and was diagnosed with liver disease.
Her son David stepped in 13 years ago as her donor. But now Donna has the Delta variant, a more contagious strain to worry about.
It's a lot easier for any kind of virus or bacteria or something to invade my system than it would be for it to invade someone else's system.
As an organ transplant recipient, she's immunocompromised, a population that includes cancer patients, stem cell transplant recipients, and people with HIV. Immunocompromised people make up 3% of the population and account for a large portion of breakthrough cases. To help protect them against COVID-19, the FDA authorized a third dose.
And that's great.
Dr. Thomas Campbell with UC Health says people with weak immune systems desperately need the boost in protection.
First two doses never get them to the level that they need. Getting that third dose will get more of them to the level that's needed.
UC Health started rolling out the third shot for people who fall into the first two vaccine phases.
Donna? Yes.
All right. And Donna signed up right away. She walked right into UC Health, and within minutes,
Free little poke.
The Pfizer vaccine went right in.
How are you feeling? About the same way I felt when I walked in the door, just fine.
The extra protection, adding a pep in her step.
It makes me feel like I'm doing everything I can to protect myself.
Addie Guajardo, Denver7.
All right, let's go in depth at the CDC's guidance for getting the third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. For people who are not immunocompromised, the CDC recommends people should wait 8 months after receiving the first dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. These COVID booster shots will be available for all Americans starting the week of September 20th, according to the CDC. A booster shot has not been authorized for people who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. If you're eligible for the third dose or still need your first or second shot, UC Health is now taking appointments. We've included a link to their online registration portal on our website. All you have to do is go to thedenverchannel.com to find it. New research from the CDC shows adolescents between 12 and 17 are considerably more likely to get both shots. The agency found that more than 86% of adolescents who received a first dose of the vaccine got a second dose as well. But that age range still lags in vaccinations. The rates were higher in 16 and 17-year-olds than in other adolescent age groups. But that age range has also been eligible for the vaccine for a longer period of time. The researchers say vaccines in younger groups are important as school continues to return to in-person learning. Meantime, COVID-19 continues to send Coloradans to the hospital, and ICU beds are a growing concern. Data released from the state today showed the highest use of ICU beds since last November. Nearly 800 people are currently in the hospital for COVID, and more than 1,400 ICU beds are currently in use. That's 86% of the state's ICU beds. And about 1 in 10 hospitals in Colorado anticipate a shortage of ICU beds in the next week. Today, the Colorado Hospital Association reactivated the transfer protocols put in place during the winter COVID surge. Hospitals with space will receive patients from hospitals with no space. The move is meant to ease pressure on the system as a whole. All right, now to the latest in Afghanistan. The U.S. vows to continue its evacuation efforts in Afghanistan following the deadly attacks at Kabul's airport. U.S. Marine Riley McCollum of Wyoming was identified to be among the 13 U.S. service members killed in the explosions. Now, U.S. troops are bracing for the threat of another terrorist attack from ISIS-K. President Joe Biden met with his national security team today to discuss the dangers still ahead.
I met with my commanders this morning, first thing in the morning, got a detailed briefing about yesterday's attacks and the measures they're taking to protect our forces and complete the mission. And we will complete the mission.
The U.S. is now working to get the remaining 500 U.S. citizens out of the country ahead of the August 31st withdrawal deadline. And we've heard the frustration from those who served in Afghanistan and from Afghan refugees now living in the United States. Many are infuriated at the way President Biden has chosen to end this conflict. Now, one Gold Star mother is describing her frustration over the fall of Afghanistan. Here's Denver7's Micah Smith.
When President Biden first announced his plans to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, Natalie Healy was not opposed to it.
I felt it was time because the original mission had been accomplished as far as I was concerned, and I thought that they had things in place that would protect women and girls and the people who aided us.
The Afghan conflict has staked a place close to Healy's heart and grief. 16 years ago, her son, Navy SEAL Dan Healy, was one of 19 killed when a helicopter was shot down by pro-Taliban forces during Operation Red Wings. His body was buried at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery. His mother says she feels betrayed.
I was infuriated, I was sad, and I was ashamed.
By the execution of the U.S. evacuation plan.
It doesn't do justice to the sacrifices that our soldiers and sailors have made over the years. The Gold Star families in this country are heartbroken.
Along with the heartbreak, anger.
The most powerful country in the world is being overrun by these dark ages thugs. All I could think of is Lady Liberty is hanging her head in shame to see what this has come to.
Healy is also upset with how President Biden responded to the crisis.
Blaming the Afghani army, putting the blame on them. I don't want blame. I want solutions.
She says after all resources are thrown at the evacuation, the U.S. should look at reinserting troops to help stabilize the region.
It's time for us to show that we will stand up for what is right.
I'm Micah Smith, Denver7.
I ended up paying this time $20 for all-day parking, and they ended up giving me an $80 ticket.
Paying for parking and getting ticketed anyways. Contact Denver7 is on the case.
Beautiful Saturday weather up in the high country with lots of sunshine and temperatures in the 80s. But what about the Front Range? A lot of activities, including the Bronco game coming up this weekend. I'll have your full forecast.
And evictions resume across the country. We take an in-depth look at the Supreme Court's decision and what resources are available for people in need.